I think we're in lesson 5 this week, aren't we? Yes, we've. It seems like we haven't done loads, but I know that we have because we've been looking at colour pencils, we've looked at notan and composition. So we have covered rather a lot. And so today, what I thought we would do is start with trying out a little bit of some acrylic washes and colour pencil together. And I've also got another little technique which I discovered recently, which is really nice for getting your colours to blend even more. So you can actually remove some of the grainy qualities, if you wanted to, of your colour pencil work too. So we've looked at colour pencils and how you can layer them to create really rich colour, and also how to create an impressionist effect by doing most of the picture with a single colour underneath before then applying all the more natural, well, the natural colours that go with the subject matter as well. So we had a lot of fun. We've had a lot of fun doing that. And so what I'm going to do is show you. We're going to look at we're going to look at African animals and things like that as well. So on the drive this week, I posted a lot of different photographs of different African animals for you to look at. Last week I started an elephant, so I'm going to be working on that first of all today, and then I've also got some hot press watercolour paper, so I'm going to try out a few experiments on some of that with the acrylic paint and the colour pencils as well. So kind of continuing on the same theme, but with some different animals. And also some of the animal pictures have got more of a landscape sort of around them, or most of them have, not all of them, because there's some pictures there that I couldn't resist putting in as well. All right, so I'm going to show you some of the photos, and I've also got a few pictures that show some inspiration as well for the use of colour and mark making in the work. So eventually, once we've done a little bit more on this, I'm hoping to bring in more of the acrylic techniques to the painting, and to remind you as well about composition a little bit more and how we can look at that in different ways as well. All right, so quite a lot there I've just said, but we're going to go and have a look at the wall and some photographs and inspiration before we continue, and I'll show you what I'm doing. Okay, so the elephant up here on the top is the one that I'm going to be focusing on this evening. Let me just find him, just so I can move him about a bit. There he is. So this is the elephant I've started to draw out, and as you can see, it's in black and white. So I'm going to use inspiration from some of the other colours in these photographs here, and also a little bit of my own sort of ideas about colour too. So coming from the inspiration and things that I'm going to show you. But we've got all sorts of pictures, as you can see. We've got zebra in a landscape, a couple of pictures of lions, and I can't remember what this is called. It's probably an antelope or something like that. Somebody will tell me eventually what sort of creature it is, but those horns and the picture itself are amazing, and we've got these beautiful sort of peachy earthy colours in the background with some lovely greys and bits of blue in there too. So we're going to be looking at some of these photographs. The thing to do first of all, of course, is to draw those out. So last week I suggested I don't know if I suggested it in this class, but in Rawns I suggested having a go at drawing your animals freehand as opposed to using a grid, because we can loosen up quite a lot when we approach the drawing and get some more character and the feeling of your hand when you're drawing, whereas in a grid, when we're often drawing in a grid, it tightens us up and prevents us from adding some more free-flowing marks and some natural marks into the picture as well. So I'll show you what I've done with that in just a few seconds. But first of all, let's get rid of these for a moment. So as I said, I'm going to be doing this elephant at the top. And let me just get rid of them somehow. There we go. Bye-bye. And here are some of the photographs that I've picked out, or paintings that I've picked out to have a look at. So as you know, I'm doing elephants, so I happen to have picked out quite a few elephant pictures today. We've got some different artists' work here. So one of them is called Artie Chauhan, and this is the elephants, all these elephants in, not that one. I'll just find them. This one here and the bluey one just above it, just there. So really kind of beautiful colours on here. We've got these, particularly with this one at the top, just here. Let me see if I can make it a bit bigger. I might have to move it up. Excuse me. Move it up to the top. There we go. So this one I chose. I mean, personally, I'm not so keen on it being so bright in the background, but it still works. Now, if you look at the detail on the trunk, you've got all that lovely detail. It's in watercolour, but as I mentioned previously, you can paint with acrylics in a watercolour style. But the colours are what interests me about this really, is because we've got these really beautiful purples again, and we've also got some bright yellows against it. So if we look over at the colour wheel at the bottom corner here, you can see the purples and yellows are complementary colours which are opposite each other. This helps those areas to contrast a bit like light and dark does, and also makes it feel quite contemporary and a little bit impressionist as well. So I'm kind of inspired by that. And then let me see if I can get this orangey one as well. I've got a couple of artists' work here. So I think it's Corey. This one over here is Corey Carlson. I might need to move that up a little bit as well. Let's see, it might be on top already. Here we go. So Corey Carlson, obviously really lots of attention to detail here. But again, that use of a lovely blue next to these browns on here, or the orangey colours. So blue and orange. So we look down the colour wheel again, you've got the blues and the oranges opposite each other, which again helps the painting to really pop out of the picture, and emphasizes some of these details as well, and shadows and things. So another one, some really interesting colors over there. And then let me see if I can get this one up. Elephant Impressionist, there it is. So this one is a really nice one as well. And this one is probably my favorite because I really enjoy all these chunky marks and brush strokes on here as well. Okay, so I'm kind of moving hopefully towards more of this sort of style, and maybe we can touch a bit more on watercolors as well in the next few weeks. But I wanted to show you these because of the color schemes again. So again, with this one, we've got lots of these lovely oranges and the blues again, and the purples and the yellows appearing in there, which makes for a really effective painting. So let's go over and have a look at the desk. So you'll remember me doing this little beauty last week. Let's get a bit more light on there. So last week then, what I was doing is I was using the colour pencil and gradually building up the colour. So I was working here on cartridge paper. So if you remember me talking about the cartridge paper, it's particularly soft. So as you work with the colour pencils, if you go too hard, you will start to go through the paper. So building up the colour gently on cartridge paper. So starting with the blues and the purples, and then building the browns and things on top, layers those colours and also doesn't go through the paper. But I was really pleased with this one because it's got this impressionist sort of idea that we were just talking about as well. Okay, so and then there was that one before where we tried out using a grid. This picture that I did last week, you'll remember I did freehand. So I did this by keeping an eye on the negative and the positive shapes in the picture to get the form and the shapes correct within the image. And I did use a little bit of black, which I mentioned, and the black really sort of just enhanced some of the deeper shadows rather than blending too much. Now, there is one thing I'd like to show you this evening, which is a little bit extra because I found out about it just the other night. So there was an artist who does a lot of flower pictures, and she was talking about how she removes a lot of the grainy effect that you get on here. So you can remove the grainy effect by using those things that we were looking at last week, such as blenders and burnishes. So you can burnish the colours together, which is what I demonstrated last time. Okay, but another really nice thing to try out is using solvent. Okay, now you may be thinking, oh, I'm not going to do that because it smells, it'll give me a headache and stuff. But I did pick up this stuff, which is non-flammable, colourless and easily disposable, right? But it's also, it doesn't have the smell because it's got a lower content of the stuff that smells in this white spirit or clean spirit. So it's usually used for colouring, for cleaning brushes and things like that. But if you take this and use a little bit of it on your picture, you can actually get the colours to dissolve a little bit, but also to then merge into each other. So I'm going to do a little bit on here. So this is a little colour mix that I did last week, just here. And I'll zoom in a little bit and you can see how it's quite effective, how it works quite well. So just around here you can see where I was doing the blending and things. So I've just got a little bit of the white cleaning spirit in my pot here. And then if you start to brush over the surface, it dissolves and dries quite quickly because of the nature of the stuff we're using. But it also dissolves the pencil. So if you've got some pencils that are quite good on pigments and things, which we were talking about before the lesson started, it's going to work. I think it'd work particularly well. But it'd be interesting to see if anyone is using slightly cheaper pencils, if this still works. So you can see how the colours have started to sort of merge a little bit and neaten up. This bit over here is much more grainy and, well, sorry, not grainy, crosshatchy and liney. So if I work over the top of that, you can see again, it does do the trick. It starts to blend things a little bit together. I'm wondering if when it dries, it goes light again because of the nature of the white spirit, but I think it will be okay actually. There's an artist who does this exclusively with pencils, colour pencils, and she uses a whole range of different sorts of pencils on there. So I'm sitting here now and this stuff doesn't smell, so it's really good to use, and you can get that from I got this from B&Q, and I've had it for a little while, and it creates these lovely blends. All right, so I might actually introduce some of that on the drawing I'm doing tonight. So I did actually make a little bit of a two-tone version of the elephant, you can see here, and it's highlighted some of the really strong highlights on the elephant that I can keep an eye out for. I haven't had time to do another no tan, but if I was to, which I could work into this a little bit and add some whiter areas to emphasize areas that I want to really stand out on the elephant. So down here, I would probably add some extra highlights and things, and maybe down on the feet just to sort of bring that back leg forward a little bit. Okay, so it's a really quick way to create that no tan, but then obviously editing it is also really useful for you to be a bit more conscious of the composition and to improve the structure of the image. But anyway, here goes. So this is what I've done so far, and I started this in the lesson last week. So the whole aim really of what I've sort of gone off on a few more techniques, but the aim of this evening is to just push things a little bit further with your colour pencils if you finished everything else, and create a wash of colour, or I've got 2 washes of colour over my picture here. And then in this area, you can see I've left it empty for now, because what I'm going to do is work into this area with colour pencils. And some of these colours are obviously overlapping the elephant in places as well, which will help it to sort of bind the background with the elephant itself. And I'm going to do it as we did last time. I'm going to do it in blues, and then I'm going to build in the other colours and details. And I may try as well some of the cleaning spirits on top to bring out the blends. The other little thing, I've got loads of ideas tonight. The other little thing is I'm going to perhaps make some marks into the washes as well with this burnishing tool that I showed you the other day. It's not a burnishing tool, it's an engraving tool for the paper. So I can make some marks in there too. And I will probably add 1 or 2 little washes on here as well. So this was done with acrylic. If you've got, this is another thing I'm going to be using at some point. If you've got some watercolor paper, then you could use it. The smoother stuff is going to be better for color pencils. So this, as I explained last lesson, is the hot press watercolor paper, and I got this on Amazon. It's quite thick. It's 300 grams per square meter, or 140 pounds. So it's quite thick, and it's really nice and smooth, and it'll be ideal for putting washes of colour on top. So I'm going to do one on here now to show you. So I don't want the spirit at the moment. A little bit of water, paint, and so acrylic, everyone will tell you who's used it a lot that you can really water it down and use it a little bit like watercolor. So let's find another. I'm gonna try a bit of blue as well. I'll use the same colours as last night, and we'll have a little play around. So you can water the paint right down. Sorry, my palette's so dirty. So water it right down, and you can then create these lovely thin layers or washes of colour, which you can also strengthen. And this just provides a little bit of colour underneath your drawing before you start working. So it's important to think about what colours you're going to use next on top. But because colour pencils are nice and soft and sit on the surface of your paper, then it should be okay to work on, but you'll still get some of those nice colours coming back through. So watercolor paper, as if you've used it before, is really nice because basically the paint won't soak straight into the paper like it does with more absorbent paper like cartridge. So it means you've got a bit of time to sort of play around with the colour. And I put these 2 colours next to each other so you can see how they start to blend together on their own. So the water kind of does the work for you in a way. There we go. And we'll do more on this in the future, but for now it's about creating a drawing first of all, And I'll try and do another drawing this lesson to show you how I break the shapes down and then go into the detail a bit later. But you can see how, I mean, this is really basic, but you can see how the colours start to blend really nicely, enabling you then to let it dry and work back over the surface. So I'm just going to put that aside for now. I'm going to be working on my elephant, Elliot. Should we call him Elliot? I don't know. But I'm going to be working on this. I'm going to use colour pencil over this area, and then I'm going to apply some different techniques into the background and build it up with perhaps some more washes and a bit of the solvent and all sorts. So number one, draw out your animal. Number two, in pencil. Number two, when you're ready at this sort of stage, try a few washes of colour, looking at your image to give you some ideas, or indeed a painting, and then work back into it with the colour pencils, and we'll see what we end up with. Okay, and then I'm going to move into paint a bit more next week. Right, I can see everyone's working away already, actually. So if anybody wants me to have a look at their work or anything, or if you're just starting off, please continue, and I'll have a look with you in a bit. All good? Okay. So I'll have to be a bit, obviously I'm not on watercolour paper here, so I do need to be aware of the paper itself. The other important thing to do is make sure that you keep your pencils nice and sharp as you're working, so you can get into the edges and things. And so every now and again, make sure you sharpen your pencils. And so I'm just going to build up the tone in those areas that I can see on here that are going to be important for the elephant. Often I use lines to work out where the different features are in the face. So on here, to work out and get the line of the eyes correct, I started from the point of one eye, and then you might just be able to see on here, I drew a line at the same angle as I could see the angle of the eyes were on the photo as well. So, and that's a good way, obviously, to measure the angles, but also to get it as accurate as you can as you're drawing as well. So at this stage, now I've got the overall structure or the shape of the elephant. I'm not going to dive straight into the detail. What I'm doing is I'm going to create more of the form of the picture that I'm working from. So I'm just working in mostly quite lightly, adding little bits of shadow. And if I do it lightly, as I said last week, if you do it lightly to begin with, it gives you a bit more leeway if you don't get things quite in the right place, which is very easy to do. And when you're doing, because I'm just hatching here, but if you're hatching or shading, sometimes it's useful to think about the curves, the shape of what you're doing, and shading in the direction that those things actually go. So like, for example, this trunk here, I could come down the trunk this way, but I could also go across like this and use curved hatching to show the shape of the trunk. Which is kind of what I did last week with Mr. Stag. When we did him, Mr. Stag. So in a way, by not going straight into the detail, you're giving yourself a bit more time to understand the shapes and the form of what it is you're actually drawing without getting bogged down with the detail straight away. So you'll see me now building up all of the colours in the image. Just here now, I'm embossing the paper with some grassy kind of lines, keeping it kind of loose and everything. And then later on, I don't quite get as far as I'd like with the grass this evening. Focus more on the elephant, I suppose. But as you would have seen from previous lessons, I rub over the top of the engraved areas to make the lighter grass come through. Just then I was showing the black and white version that I've got, which has got mostly just two tones on it, which shows some of the structural parts of the image, which I then use to help me. Actually, I do switch between the photograph you can see here and the no-tan version, I'm calling it, of the photograph, which has been reduced down to just black and whites rather than all of the tones you can see in the picture. So it's quite useful sometimes to use a black and white image because it can actually give you a little bit of freedom to add or challenge you to bring in your own colors. So you can see I've just dragged in this painting and put that on the screen here to really give me some sort of reference to what I can do with the picture. My picture won't look like this one that you can see on the screen, purely because I'm using different media, and I really enjoy doing all these little mark making techniques and hatches and layering, just like I did last week in the previous lesson. So here, this is actually a color called grape from the Derwent paint pencil set that I've got. So I'm just getting into a little bit more of the detail as I shade into some of the blues that I added a few minutes ago. So as you can see, I'm building up the image of the elephant quite gradually, and I'm using mostly kind of loose marks, knowing that I don't have lots of time, a couple of hours to play around with this image this evening. So at this point, I am taking a bit more reference from the photograph, and I'm piling in some of this kind of orange into the image to contrast a little bit with the blue and the purpley grape color that I put in before. On the screen, it looks a little bit browny as well, doesn't it? But it comes together nice, and couldn't resist going in with the green to cover up his feet, as in to make him feel like he's in the grass a little bit more. And then I'm going in now with a little bit more of a purpley color, so I'm darkening down those areas. Well, the nice thing about working this way, you can build it up gradually, as I mentioned earlier. You can revisit areas and notice things that you didn't notice before and get a real knowledge and understanding of the picture that you're working on. And as I'm working, I'm noticing, of course, some of the details, such as the folds and the little bits on his ears just there. And I'm bringing in a little bit more of the heavier shadow. Just at this point, I'm noticing that my leg looked a bit flat, so I've added more tone. And in a minute, I think I noticed that underneath his knee is darker, the front leg, because of the way he's walking here. And I noticed that more from the no-tan picture too. So I mentioned acrylics, and I've done a wash of acrylic in the background already before I started